The saying is that each person dies twice. First, when circulation stops and matter is returned to matter, a final, marked fact that everyone knows is coming. That death is objective, a point in the biography. Yet the graver death is the one that occurs when the will to grow wanes, when aspiration falters, when the unfolding of self halts. Most picture final extinction as an event reserved for the horizon, a storm one day, a distant line above the dull shade of life. Yet many feel the second death settled within them long before that horizon arrives. That death arrives on the day preference for comfort outweighs. It arrives when the spacious unknown is bartered for the tight certainty of a habitual cage, and the last trembling step turns back. Comfort, on its surface, is pleasant. It arrives as gentle, known rhythms as the agreed silence of daily cues, the shallow sigh of routine. It is the insured salary extracted month on month by a job that steadily erodes the spirit. It is the partnership emptied of out, breaking joy yet bleeds away conflict. It is late evening flicker that fills the room and drowns the urgent and unanswerable questions swimming through the chest. Yet comfort is also a practiced deceiver, smiling, its bars unseen among the soft folds of the caloric, the convenient, the already rehearsed. It glances at you and names the feeling stability, while quietly downgrading your impulses toward the extraordinary. It calls the settled routine realism, and then tucks your soaring impulses back inside your ribs. You repair the bargain quietly each dawn. You swap the glimmer of what could be for the dull certainty of what won't go wrong. You give the vivid, pulsating palette of a life flung wide for the ironed neutral of a life managed. Then, out of another mediocrity, one morning you lift your head. The same walls, the same small habits, and a biting stillness tightens around your ribs. You understand you have played the role of a living person, yet the script was never living. Jean-Paul Sartre label led the masquerade bad faith. You trick yourself into ignoring your freedom. You declare, I'm just the way I was born, or what else could I do? Treating yourself like a piece of furniture, like a fixed thing that does not grow. But you are not fixed. You are a restless, thinking body, redefined with each choice the clock keeps handing you. To choose the cushioned way out of every question is to colossally refuse the one trace of your humanity, the sharp, open space of your irreversible freedom. There's a familiar tale about the lobster as a metaphor for human development. With growth, the animal outgrows its rigid exoskeleton, which then becomes a constraining prison, tight, relentless, even painful. The internal demand for more space becomes unbearable. The creature's sole option for survival is to abandon the prison. In the decisive instant, it is utterly exposed, unprotected, unarmored, thoroughly vulnerable. Seized by risk, it retreats to the shelter of a crevice, outwardly defenseless, until a new, more capacious shell becomes firm. The brief interval of raw discomfort, the stimulus of unmediated stress, is the single requisite for expansion. Were the lobster to cling to the old, familiar enclosure out of fear, its own metamorphosis would literally crush it. Growth would become its own execution. The same dynamic governs human experience. The so-called comfort zone, however soft, eventually hardens into a prison. Contracting from its dismantling does not merely freeze development, it silently erodes it from within. The process, however, is not merely a mechanism of survival, it is a quest for significance. Albert Camus, circling the theme in mythical language, recalled the plight of Sisyphus. Condemned to futility, the king is obliged to heave a titanic stone toward the mountain summit, only to witness the inevitable retrograde each time he nears the crest. The act is stripped of any final aim. It is work divided from completion, lab hour unredeemed. Camus provocatively urges us to envision Sisyphus as content. Why? because in the singular interval when he descends the slope to reclaim the stone, he is wholly aware of the cycle. He has ceased to be a mere mark of divine malice. He has become a conscious adversary. By accepting the burden of the ascent, by investing every last fragment of his being in the absurd round, he ridicules celestial authority. Through his refusal to yield, he forgets his own significance. The summit is irrelevant. The essence of life is situated in the exertion, not the elevation. Yet we long for ascent that spares us anguish. We covet transition that spares us hazard. We aspire to the apex, savouring the view, without the distressing drive that obtains it. That is a mere reverie. The unruly gift of liberty is that every decision rests upon our own shoulders, without instruction. The path offers no warranty. This vertigo of infinite possibility, the existential tradition has designated as angst or dread, the stark apparition that the contour of our days is ours to inscribe. To elude this vertigo, we erect the citadel of the familiar. Within its parapets, it utters the most treacherous of illusions, later. Soon enough. Launch the venture when the raise comes through. Draft the manuscript once bedtime routines are a little shorter. Circumnavigate the globe once the pension kicks in. Soon slips to 12 months. 12 months lapses into never. Then, unexpectedly, the calendar thins. The vapour of lost days drifts past your reflection. In its place, the faint outline of who you might have been drifts through a life never actually inhabited. If you wish to inhabit your own life, you must crack the exterior. You must, as Søren Kierkegaard advised, execute the leap of faith. Not the leap into what is known, but the plunge into what is still occluded, launched by an engine of personal conviction alone. Initiate the endeavour before the data chart's green. Voice the sentence that restricts all breath. Purchase the passage to a longitude that sends a tremor of dread and delight through your rib cage. Accept the role you suspect exceeds your present self. You do not defer to the sensation of being prepared. Preparedness is a fiction. Assurance does not precede the deed. It accrues through the deed. Sartre's declaration that existence precedes essence confronts the fallacy that we innately embody any fixed characteristic. There is no prenatal imprint of hero or visionary or guide. First comes the fact of being next, the sustained, brave decisions that give that being its defining qualities. You acquire courage by acting courageously, artistry by making art. Think of yourself as the sculptor. The block of marble is your unfolding life. Each deliberate choice that pushes you beyond comfort is another deliberate strike that removes the superfluous. Moment by moment, the statue of the authentic self comes into clearer view. If you experience stagnation, the diagnosis is seldom that life is overly demanding. It is that you are permitting it to be excessively accommodating. The gravest price of unyielding comfort is not defeat or averageness. It is the quiet forfeiture of the one life you own. The tragicomedy is to reach the finish line and realize you never entered the race. Easy routines never requisition your finest self. They merely endure whatever is ordinary. Genuine becoming, however, growth, the rupture of comfort, the embrace of difficulty, insists that you show up fully, that you are pressure-tested awake and eager. The challenge of living with fervour is its own reward. In the manner of Camus, admitting that life offers no prefabricated meaning is not a source of bitterness. It is the radical release to invent your own significance. When you step beyond familiar limits, you invite your own definitions, your own pursuits, your own burning purpose to enter the empty space the risk created. The comfort zone, by contrast, turns that empty space into a sterile museum for the life you never truly owned. It wears the mask of familiarity, but beneath the surface, it quietly drains colour, daring you to mistake endurance for depth. Confront yourself with this one piercingly clear question. Is the life you inhabit one you have fought to shape, or one you accepted because it was handed to you with enough polite nods? The comfort zone cannot masquerade as a sanctuary. Rather, it operates as a prolonged fugue state. You enter it hoping for repose, yet you leave a little more undone each time, trailing a grey residue. Your flesh may one day decay, but your spirit can wither by design. The first dissolution is fate. The second is an elective surrender.